Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're going to give folks a few more minutes to log on and then we'll get started. Good to see you.
Hello.
All righty here. We'll let a few more folks in and then we'll get started here shortly. Thanks for joining us on time. Very punctual. Appreciate it.
Sharing this Klarich.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and let people slowly trickle in here. But in order to appreciate the fact that you were on time, we'll get started because we've got a full agenda here to discuss. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our summer launch event, Threads of Change. Thank you for being here to celebrate community collaboration and the enduring connections between culture, conservation, and craft. You guys are in for a treat. We've got a wonderful lineup tonight. We're so grateful to be here amongst friends, supporters, partners, and advocates who share our commitment to preserving the rich fiber traditions of the Andes and supporting the communities who sustain them. So, real quick, I just wanted to run through a brief agenda. We're going to have a brief special tribute to Susie Burke for her extraordinary leadership and service. We're also going to introduce our new co-presidents, and you'll be hearing from one of them for a majority of this presentation as well. She'll be touching on the history and importance of fibers. We'll also hear an update from Peru, specifically our Bofedales project, as well as some updates for what's to come the remainder of this year. And then, of course, we're here to launch our summer campaign. So thank you for being here. We are recording this event just in case folks wanted to attend who aren't able to, then we're able to share that. And I'll share this recording with those of you who are on the call as well, in case you'd like to share it with someone else in your circle. So, before we begin, we want to take a moment to honor someone whose dedication has helped shape the organization that we are today. For the past 6 years, Susie has served on our board as our board president with vision, generosity, and unwavering commitment. Throughout her leadership, she strengthened our mission, deepened our community partnerships, and guided us through meaningful growth and change. Susie, I know we're putting you on the spot here, but we could not go by with a simple letter sending out. We wanted to at least highlight some of the wonderful moments that we've had with you. And your passion for this work and your beliefs in the power of connection have been so evident and have left a lasting mark on all of us. So I do want to share a little something as a small token of our gratitude. We're honored to present this beautiful parchment design that David and his team have worked really hard to put together for us. So it's made from alpaca fibers, which symbolizes the traditions and communities you've helped uplift. So this is obviously a digital representation. The actual thing is being made in Peru as we speak. So the next time one of our members from Peru comes to the US or vice versa, we'll be sure to give it to you. But it's a very, very small token for just how grateful we are to you for all of the work that you've done. And I personally am going to miss seeing you in all of our meetings. I'm delighted that you're still going to be joining us. So I know I'm putting you on the spot here, Susie, but if you'd like to say something, feel free. But I know I'm not alone in just the appreciation that we have for everything you've done for the foundation. I think there'll be space at the end too if other folks want to chime in. I received so many emails just wishing you well and thanking you. So we wanted to make sure to take a brief moment. So if you'd like to say something, feel free. If
Well,
not, no worries.
let me just say how I think that is just the most wonderful um, preparation that David and the team have prepared. It's just been a great pleasure to work with everybody. It's now been, I guess, about 12 years. And I've loved every moment of my association with all of you, particularly the EC, which is just a great team that has done wonderful work, and the entire board has been fabulously supportive. And I just know we're going to go on to do many, many fine things in the Altiplano. And um, I certainly intend to do everything in my power to continue the fine work that you've got underway. I feel wonderful. I think it's probably the most important responsibility of any president of an NGO to make sure that you have strong leadership when you leave. And I could not be happier with the team that we have in place, with Mackenzie, the entire EC, with Dr. Ricardo, David. It's just a great team, and I know that we've got many, many fine accomplishments ahead of us. So thank you all for the lovely recognition. Very, very kind of you. Totally unnecessary. I love you all. And now on to the program.
Thanks, Susie. I know you're probably looking forward to not having to speak in one of these events, and I put you on the spot, but we just love you so much and appreciate you. So I do want to make sure as well for those who might not have seen the announcement, just to keep you all up to speed. We are celebrating kind of the legacy that Susie's left behind, as well as looking forward to this new chapter. So we have two wonderful, brave souls who are stepping into this role, both Liz Klarich and Kathy Oates, who I think most of us know very well at this point. But these two individuals are going to, help further our mission. I'm really excited to work alongside them. We're going to be hearing briefly from Liz here shortly. And Kathy has bravely came on camera. She just underwent an eye operation, so I'm not going to necessarily put her on the spot at this moment, but we'll be hearing from her throughout our summer campaign and our future events as well. But I am very excited, like I mentioned, to be working alongside you both. And we do have more information about their tremendous backgrounds and careers on our website if you'd like to read more. I thought I might print all that out, but we would be here a long time with all the accomplishments that you both have under your belt. So thanks for joining us and this new role, and we're looking forward to the future. All right, without further ado, I am going to pass the microphone over to Liz, who's going to talk about our first portion of the event tonight. Over to you, Liz.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I'm Liz Klarich, and as you heard, the new co-president of the foundation. I have been the secretary for, oh goodness, I think 7 years. And so I have learned a ton, and still a little nervous, but excited. And thank you to Mackenzie and David and Kathy and Susie for making the transition go as smoothly as possible. So I'm an archaeologist, and I've been working in the Lake Titicaca region since the mid-1990s, and at the site of Pucara in the town of Pucará since 2000. And that's the location of the Prodea office where David is sitting right now. I'm an associate professor of anthropology at Smith College. And as an anthropologist, as an archaeologist, I focus on tracing the long-term dynamic histories of the peoples of the Lake Titicaca region. And I also focus on using those insights to contribute to issues that are important today, like the sustainability of llama and alpaca herding communities in the high Andes. Next slide, please. So some of the most identifiable elements of Andean material culture are textiles, which remain key components of cultural identities and economies and belief systems in the region. And here are some examples of different types of textiles. This is from my archaeology world primarily. These are tunics and belts and hats. They're made from plant and animal fibers, dyed in natural colors. And these are from over the last 6,000 years of Andean history.
What are you doing? Oh, what?
Oh, let's see. There we go. Thank you. They're on display in art museums across the globe. And in the Andes, we see them in archaeology, ethnography, and textile museums. And they're primarily, as you can see here, made of camelid fibers from llamas and alpacas. And so this evening, I'm going to provide a brief history of camelid hunting and herding in the Andes, focusing on llamas and alpacas and their close relatives, before David discusses the challenges facing herding communities in the high Puna of Puno today. Next slide, please. So camelids have a long and rich history in the Andes. And the very quick version of it is about 10,000 BC, human populations moved into the Titicaca region. They've migrated into the region really to hunt wild camelids for meat and hides. And then for the next few thousand years, from about 7,000 to 3,000 BC, these populations were nomadic foragers. So they were hunting and gathering. And they were also beginning to experiment with the cultivation of wild plants, and they were slowly shifting their relationship with wild camelids because domestication is a slow process. Around 3000 BC, we actually have evidence for the development of what we call mixed economies, these foraging and farming communities. So populations were shifting both from primarily hunting to herding camelids, and they were also shifting to cultivate tubers and quinoa and other highland crops. So today, agropastoral communities are present across the region, with some exclusively pastoralist groups that live up in the higher elevations. So these are elevations that are beyond the limits of agriculture. And these are some of the groups that David will be talking about in a few minutes. And so just to tell you a bit about this slide, here we see llamas and alpacas, which are adorable. And in the little chart with 4 on the top, we can see the wild camelids that we still have today. So the guanaco and the vicuña, and below those, the domesticated ones, which are the llamas and alpacas. They have slightly different geographical distributions, but they are all uniquely adapted to thriving at high elevations and associated with these high elevation marshlands called bofidales, which David will be talking about in a few minutes. Next slide, please. So herders are focusing, of course, primarily on domestic camelids. So llamas have been bred for their size and strength and endurance. And so if you've seen caravans of camelids, you have been seeing llamas. They are pack animals across the Andes. They're also even used for hiking and even as golf caddies in some places. And alpacas have been bred for their fiber. And here with the black background, you can see the 2 main types of alpacas. Of course, llamas and alpacas are also used for meat and hides and in ritual practice, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. Next one, please. So as an archaeologist, how do we study camelids? Well, the field of zoo archaeology, those are folks who are actually focused on the archaeology of animals, go figure. And those folks study the skeletal remains of camelids, and they can see the shifts between wild and domesticated animals, and they also study genetics. And so there are many questions that still remain about the kind of evolution and breeding of camelids. We also can see camelids all over the place in material culture. We see them depicted in rock art. We see tools made from their bones. We see finished products like textiles. We also see things that kind of reflect herding strategies, like modifications to the landscape for canals to make bofidales richer. Or when we find non-local goods in a region, we often have to think about how they got there and think about the potential that there were llama caravans in the past. We also rely on ethnography, or the study of contemporary herding populations, to understand kind of their lifeways and their belief systems. And we also rely on ethnohistoric or early historic documents from the colonial period, primarily written by both Spanish conquistadors and indigenous chroniclers about their relationships with camelids. Next slide, please. So I've just picked 2 sites to talk about very briefly to give you a sense of kind of what we think we know, or what we can learn about camelids in this region and their long history. So I picked this first one, the site of Kelkatani, which is in the southern Titicaca Basin. And this is a rock shelter. It's actually, in this image, it's the shadowy part. And this served as both a hunting camp for foraging populations, and then later more settled populations actually built little structures under there. And why I picked this is because you can see here that it is situated above a bofidal. And so for hunters, this would have given them access to wild camelids who are coming in to gain access to water and to grasses. And then later for herders, these are ideal places to keep your herds. And actually, if you could really zoom in on this, you'd actually be able to see all of these little dots on there, because those are camelids that are out herding.
Oh, wow.
And so one of the things that's really neat about this too, at this site, is that it is covered in rock art. And it has depictions of camelids in a style that's been attributed to hunters and also to herders, which was actually the topic of my master's thesis, but I'll stop there because I could go on for hours. But it's a topic that has been addressed by many archaeologists in the Andes because of the key element, the key importance of camelids. And so here you can actually see a recent publication called Camelids in the Art of South America that was written or edited by a Chilean and Argentinian colleague of mine that really focuses on how do we see camelids depicted over time. Next, please. And then moving to the northern Titicaca Basin, the site of Pucara is the site where I conduct my research. It's in the town of Pucara. And this is a monumental site. We're actually in a drone looking down on what looks like little steps. Those are monumental terraces that were built around 200 BC. They were restored in the 1970s. They didn't preserve that well. And this is one of the earliest population centers in the region. It's also where the Prodea office is in the town of Pucara. And we have lots of evidence from this site of the different ways that camelids have been important over time. Next, please. So here we can actually see some evidence from excavations. There's evidence of camelid consumption, both for small scale meals and at feasts with large numbers of camelids in a single deposit. You can actually see where that arrow is pointing. It looks like you can see whole ribs like you've just come from a barbecue. And that's pretty much what this is. This is a large midden from probably 200 BC. We think it was a work party associated with the construction of the monumental architecture. That might be a bit of a stretch, but it's an interesting theory. And so we see the disposal of these animal bones and also serving vessels. We see them in terms of what people were eating. But you also can see in this image on the other side that camelids were depicted in iconography. So on the top, you can actually see an individual with a camelid that's looks like it's on a kind of on a rope. And then on that bottom row, there are these kind of hybrid supernatural camelids that we see on stone sculpture and on snuff tablets from this same time period. Okay, next one, please. We also, going back to textiles, textiles don't preserve in the highlands. It rains too much, the soil's too acidic. But there are textiles attributed to the Pucara culture based on similarities to the iconography on ceramics, and like this one here. And here it's interesting too, that arrow is actually pointing to, it's a little bit meta because we have a textile made of camelids, and then there's like a little winged camelid that you can see there beneath that central figure. So we don't actually have preserved textiles from our excavations at Pucara, but we do have evidence of a kind of process of producing these. And so we have evidence of spindle whorls. So here you can see in the bottom corner, these are examples of broken ceramics that had been recycled to be turned into spindle whorls about 2,000 years ago. And in the upper corner, you actually see what these look like today. That's actually a wooden whorl on a wooden spindle with fibers above it. So we can see these technologies in these ancient contexts. Next one, please. Also, in terms of weaving, we know that for millennia, Andean weavers have been using backstrap looms to produce these complex textiles. And in our excavations at Pucara, we were excited to find a number of bone tools that are very similar to those used today by weavers, like this weaver here on the right. And these weavers today are creating intricate designs using llama and alpaca fibers, sheep wool, and even synthetic fibers. In the past, it would have just been llamas and alpacas, of course. And so there's still lots to be done to understand camelid use at Pucara, but there's been some really interesting data. Okay, and our next one, please. So I want to wrap up talking just a little bit about the importance of camelids in Andean ritual practice, and we're jumping forward significantly in time here. But in this slide, we can actually see what are called canopas. They were made by the Inca, which are camelid-shaped stone offering vessels. So they date back to about the 14th century. And we know that these were filled with animal fat, and they were a key part of small-scale ritual practice related to herd health and fertility. And here I have some quotes from an article by a colleague, Bill Sillers, who's an ethnoarchaeologist, and wrote an article on the Inca and Spanish relationships with canopas. And we see some quotes here that Canopa were understood to create a connection between people, camelid herds, and the animate landscape, and that they also reflect Andean beliefs that humans and animals exist in a community of interdependent entities. So getting kind of beyond economics and getting more into the kind of cultural significance of these animals. In the 17th century, canopas were targeted for confiscation and destruction by Spanish colonial priests. And so this really shifted rituals involving canopas to kind of private and protected spaces within family homes. Next, please. And so today, many people believe that in this region believe that their ancestors, so in the last few centuries, transformed llama canopas made of stone into the bull figurines made of clay, like the toritos of Pucará, to escape their detection and persecution. So these bull figurines are often placed in pairs with a cross on the rooftop of a house. And just like canopas, continue to bring prosperity and fertility and protection to highland families. And so in this slide, we actually see a flyer for an event that's taking place right now this month at the Pucará Lithic Museum in Pucará, highlighting these connections and inviting local potters to contribute their own canopas, so seen here on the table, and also their own versions of these toritos of Pucará, which are seen in the flyer there, that cute little bull, to this conversation about this kind of transformation of ritual practice over the centuries. Next, please. So I know this has been a very quick summary, and I'm always happy to answer questions people have and to talk about camelids. Here we just have a few examples of books I would recommend. The Pastores de Paretia. Paretia is actually one of the communities in the Chijnaya Foundation and Pro Dia Network. Community of herders that we work with. And this was an ethnography written by Jorge Flores Ochoa, a famous Cusqueño cultural anthropologist, about kind of life ways of pastoralists. The one in the middle is the Archaeology of Andean Pastoralism, which is an edited volume looking at kind of economic and social relationships that still revolve around people who are caravanning in the region today, and of course in the past. And then Llamas Beyond the Andes, I haven't had a chance to read yet. It's on my reading list, but it's looking at kind of the impact of llamas globally. Next one, please. So I just wanted to thank you. And as it says here, this is from our trip from Arequipa to Puno. We stopped at a vista, and this little guy here is saying, taking care of me is in your hands. So thank you very much.
Nice. Great.
Thank you, Liz. And now we're going to hear from David Cajo, who's going to discuss how all of this is related to our work in the Bofedales program.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Good evening, everybody. Well, I see some friends here and some. So my name is David Cajo. I'm part of the Prodia team, the Association Prodia, the allied entity of the Chijnaya Foundation. So we are based in Pucará, where we have our headquarters is the main office. So I'm at the moment here in Pucará. So I would like to start talking about a little bit about the communities, the alpaca communities where we work, and the activities or projects that we've been implementing during the last 3 years. So the alpaca communities are located in the Peruvian Altiplano. That is located. These communities are located more than 4,000 meters above sea level. So can you imagine there are very harsh conditions? I mean, temperatures can drop below zero every night. During certain seasons, there can be a drop season. Water is limited. So during the last years, the climate conditions are becoming very unpredictable every year. For example, a few days ago, there was a really hard snow, even here in Pucará. Everything was white. Can you imagine in the alpaca communities that it must be freezing at the moment? So for many families of these alpaca communities, the alpacas are not simple a livestock. I mean, they are their economy, they are their food security. there is part of the culture and the connections to the generations of ancestral knowledge. But the climate change is affecting all this entire system. Over the last years, these alpaca communities are reporting changes in the rainfall patterns, longer drought periods, degradation of the bofedales and the native pastures. And so the bofedales, that is the wetlands that sustains all the alpaca herdings, are having a very difficult time. When we speak with the families, they are not talking about climate change as a global political discussion. They are talking about very concrete things, like our animals are dying, our animals have less pastures, the water sources are weaker, the fiber quality is decreasing, the younger folks are leaving the communities because they don't have chances to improve their economy there. So this is why our work during the last 2 years was not focused only on the on get better improvement the wetlands. Now we are focusing on the production and the commercialization. So next slide, please. One thing that we learned over these years working with alpaca communities is that everything begins with water. I mean, without water, there is no healthy bofedales. Without healthy bofedales, there is no healthy alpacas. Without healthy alpacas, family lose income and stability. So when we think about development in the Altiplano, and especially with alpaca communities, we cannot isolate one issue from the other. I mean, water is not only an environmental issue, it's also an economic issue, a social issue, and even a cultural issue. So many of these families have live in harmony with this ecosystem for generations. I mean, they know how to take care for the land. They understand the seasonal cycles in the Altiplano. They understand the animal behavior, but the pressures that they are facing now are becoming stronger. I mean, that's why our projects increasingly connect environmental restoration with economic sustainability. Next slide, please. But there is a point when the system breaks down. I mean, and the effects spread very quickly to the entire community system. That means if there is pasture is deteriorating or the bofedales they are deteriorating, then the alpacas becomes weaker. I mean, when alpacas become weaker, then the fiber quality decreases, and when fiber quality decreases, of course, the families receive lower prices. So at the moment, so you can have an idea how much costs a kilo of alpaca fiber is between $13-15, and they only can have for one alpaca 1.5 kg or 2 kilos of fiber per year. So can you imagine these hard conditions for the alpaca families? So they can't generate enough income. That have the effects that the migration increases, especially of the younger generations. So this creates a cycle that is very difficult to reverse. Many times, I mean, when people think about poverty, they imagine lack of effort, but that is not true. That we are here in the land, we see that the communities work extremely hard. But as I mentioned before, the challenge is different. They are facing the challenge of the climate change. So then the question becomes, how do we can help these alpaca communities strengthen both sides? I mean, the ecological resilience and the economic resilience at the same time. So that is the approach of the Chijnaya Foundation and the ProDia has been trying to build. Next slide, please. So everything starts. I mean, at the center of this system is the bofedales. The bofedales are the high Andean wetlands that the function that they have is almost like a natural reservoir. They retain moisture. They regulate the water availability and sustain pasture for the alpacas harvest for the whole year. So the alpacas community, when we try to see what we can do, so and the conversation and the asambleas that we have with them, then they have this idea. I mean, that is very important, that we need to work recovering the bofedales and the natural pastures so the alpaca hardens can have more food. And as I mentioned before, there is a whole cycle. And this is very important to mention, that the idea, it comes from the people, from the communities. It didn't come from the outside consultants. So they understand the importance of the bofedales. They understand the importance of to keep and preserve this ecosystem, because is this ecosystem collapse, then their economic, they have some side effects on their economic. So the restoration of the bofedales and the natural pasture in these alpaca communities become not only an environmental strategy, but also is a economic and a survival strategy for them. Next slide, please. So the solution comes from the community. During all these years that we've been working with all the communities, we learned that to make a project sustainable, the solution needs to come from the communities. From in many rural development projects around the world, we learned that sometimes the solutions come or are designed externally and they impose on a local population. But in our experience, that approach rarely creates a sustainability, a long-term sustainability. So with the alpaca communities or in the whole community where we work, all the solutions come from them. I mean, we have a horizontal work, and as our role as a ProDIA and the Chijnaya Foundation, of course, is give them the companion and the technical assistance with the projects, strengthen the local capacities, and help create opportunity that communities themselves identifies as priorities and needs. So that's why the participation of the communities is very important, because the families participate in the decision making, they work with us on implementation, and specific in the alpaca communities, they've been participating in all these restoration activities to protect their bofedales and the natural pastures. So all this cycle creates an ownership. The community feels that the project belongs to them, so the project become more stronger, more sustainable, and more meaningful for them. And of course, we always respect their local tradition and their culture. Next slide, please. So over the last 3 years with alpaca communities, we've been working on projects that to help them to protect the bofedales, to recover the bofedales, and to recover the pastures. So the alpaca, their alpaca can have more food for them. So during these years, we've been working on the restoration of the native pastures, the installation of the small water reservoirs, uh, uh, activities to recover the bofedales, technical training, and community organization processes. So but all these projects were not isolated. I mean, every project was connected with other things, like, for example, with a reservoir installed, as you see on the slide, that is a small water reservoir. So then their animals have secure water for the whole year. the bofedales can be have access to that water, so the pasture can be have water too. So everything is it's connected. So these communities not only are having the restoration of the native grass, they are improving the long-term pasture conditions. I would like to highlight it that the hard work that the members of the community has been involved during all these years. I mean, they contribute not only the labor, the hard labor, they contribute with the local materials, they contribute with their local knowledge. So they understand the importance to preserve their ecosystems. So I think this creates something very powerful that is a shared responsibility. I mean, communities are not just beneficiaries or just passive actors. They are become active partners with us in the whole process. Next slide, please. So I would like to report after these years that we've been working on the restoration pastures and protecting bofedales, we have now already real results. We have some areas that are being restored with bofedales. We have more areas with the native pastures for the alpacas food. And of course, the communities become more strained in their organizational capacities. And the most important, I think, is that the families realize that they are more aware about the importance of the whole ecosystem protection. So this is our significant achievements, but at the same time, we also realize something very important. That is the environmental restoration alone is not enough. I mean, even when ecosystem improves, families is still facing a challenge. What is that? The economic limitations. Many families continue selling raw alpaca fiber at very low prices. As I mentioned before, 1 kilo is $15. In other words, these communities are doing the hardest part of the work. I mean, raising the alpacas, protecting the ecosystem, but they are receiving only a small portion of their economic value generated from that fiber. And this is when we are going to the next level, working with these alpaca communities, that is how these alpaca communities can retain the more value from their own work. Next slide, please. So this take us to the next level, as I mentioned before. We began to exploring how to connect ecosystem protection with production, value-added processes, and commercialization. So we learned that, I mean, the communities already possess an extraordinary knowledge. Many of the women already know about the traditional spinning techniques. Families already understand the alpaca management. So they have all this cultural knowledge. The problem is not the absence of this knowledge. The problem is the absence of opportunities, technical support, infrastructure, and market access for the product. So this is when this idea become that they can produce a handmade alpaca yarn in natural colors, preserving the traditional techniques for that. So this is the next level. The goal is not simple to sell, more products. The goal is to help communities to capture more value from their own efforts, the knowledge that they have, and preserve the traditions. Next slide, please. So before continue, we would like to invite you to hear direct from the community members. What about UTC is not a promotional video. I mean, these are real families, alpaca families speaking about their reality, their challenge, their work, and their hopes for the future. These communities already have the knowledge, the commitment, and the cultural strength. What they need is the opportunity to transform that effort into a sustainable economic development.
podemos tener en mejor calidad y luego para poder vender nuestros hilos en mercados más allá, ¿no? En tiendas comerciales y para sustentar nuestra familia, tener ese apoyo económico o tener más economía en la familia. Gracias.
Thank you. So these communities are not asking, others to build a future for them. They are already working hard every day, as I mentioned before, under very difficult conditions. What they are asking for is the opportunity to improve their production. Strengthen the commercialization and access to markets that recognize the true value of their work. So what we are focusing now is, the next step, as is showing in the slide, is to strengthen the production and commercialization of the handmade alpaca fiber products. This is very important transition. Instead of selling only raw fiber, communities can begin generating a greater value locally through traditionally spinning and yarn production. This creates several positive impacts, we think. At the same time, first of all, they improves economic opportunities for their families. The second, it strengthens ancestral knowledge and traditional techniques, of course. The third, we think it creates a stronger incentives for ecosystem protection because they learn that with healthier bofedales or better pastures, they can have healthier alpacas and produce a better fiber. And four, of course, it helps to the communities become more economic resilience. So we are not trying to industrialize these communities. We are trying to strengthen a community-based production while preserving a cultural identity and traditional knowledge. Next slide, please. So as you can see on the slide, there is like a change. Now everything is connected. A healthy ecosystem give us a sustained healthy alpacas. Then healthy alpacas provide a better fiber. With better fiber, we can create a better opportunities for a higher quality yarn. And of course, with a better yarn creates opportunities to improve a family income. But for communities to benefit from this change, they need to support at different levels. A technical training, a technical training in production, marketing support. They need to be on the web. On the internet with the social media. Social network, and of course access to a fair market. Our vision is to help these communities move from land to the market while they keep maintaining control over their own cultural and productive processes. Next one, please. So why all this work and this level that we are focused this year is matter? Because all this work is about more is about much more than a yarn. It's about dignity. As I mentioned before, the alpaca communities are facing really hard conditions. The younger generation are migrating to the cities because they don't have chances to there in their communities. So with this, I think we can help families generate a better income from their own work. It's about reducing pressure for migration. It's about preserving ancestral knowledge that has existed for generations, and it's also about environmental sustainability. When communities can earn better income through alpaca production, they have stronger incentives to protect bofedales and native pastures. So environmental protection and economic development stop being separate goals. They become part of the same strategy. And perhaps the most important thing is that this process is all a community driven. The communities themselves are the protagonists of this work, and as an organization, we give the companion and the technical assisting during all this time. Next slide, please. So this slide summarizes our vision very well. I mean, all these three systems are related. I mean, sustainable development in the Altiplano require balance between these three interconnected dimensions: ecosystem, culture, and economic. If one of these systems, I mean, become weak, then the whole system become vulnerable. Economic, ecosystem sustain life and production, culture preserve identity, acknowledge, and community cohesion. And giving the economic opportunity allows families to remain in their territories with dignity. So our goal is to strengthen all these three dimensions together, not separately, because in these communities, everything is connected. Next slide, please. Okay, so today we are launching this summer campaign because we believe these communities deserve the opportunity to move forward with dignity. The families already have the knowledge, they already have the commitment, they already have the cultural tradition and the willingness to work. So what they need are opportunities. Opportunities to improve their production, opportunities to strengthen commercialization, opportunities to access a better markets, and opportunities to build a more sustainable life and future for their children. Every contribution to this campaign helps strengthen not only a family economy, but also a cultural heritage and ecosystem production. In the Peruvian Altiplano, on behalf of the Chijnaya Foundation and the Prodi Association and the communities where we work, we want to sincerely thank to all of you for your support, your trust, and your commitment. We think that together we can help transform a effort into opportunities, an effort into tradition, and tradition into sustainability, and community work into a long-term hope. So thank you very much. If there is any comments and questions, please let me know.
Thanks, David, and thank you, Liz. We'll take some questions or any other comments at the end. I just want to wrap up here, kind of tying this back together to some of the other work that we're doing as well. I think you guys got a wonderful deep dive into the Bofedales project and how we're trying to support these communities of alpaqueros. But like many of you are aware, we do have other projects. So we've listed our programs and our projects here on this page. Outside of our traditional scholarship health savings program, we have and rotating funds program, we have adapted our type of interventions to the needs that exist and that have surfaced in the community. So that means working with communities to get them water, especially on the island of Amantani on Lake Titicaca. That also means working with volunteers, students who are in college and wanting to kind of apply some of their knowledge firsthand, as well as we're receiving support from some different individuals from the United States currently as well. And then as well as some of the alpaca fiber and production and commercialization projects that David has just kindly walked us through. So if you want a full list of our projects that we're seeking to support this year, please visit our website. Under our work, there's a 2026 slide that or page that you can look through in detail, especially some of the rotating funds projects. But you can imagine all of this work requires a lot of support. So that is something that we're reaching out to all of you to help us with, as well as those in your circles to get folks excited about it. So our goal between now and the end of July is to raise $130,000 to support these ongoing partnerships, ongoing projects. And so we always encourage individuals to find a project or program that they identify with and support that. If you do feel compelled to support us in a general capacity, trusting us to distribute funds where they're needed, we also really appreciate that. But essentially now until the end of July, we'll be receiving gifts for this specific summer campaign. Again, you can designate the gift where you would like. Typically, We have done a matching campaign in the past, but this year we do not have a formal matching campaign. But we're deeply moved by some generous individuals who have pledged gifts towards this effort, and many of them in Ralph's memory. So we encourage you to join in on the effort to continue to strengthen our work. So any contribution, large or small, will help sustain the support that we're giving in the Andes. And I know many of you on this call are long-term supporters, and we cannot appreciate you enough. We will be sending out different mailers this summer, as well as sending out different emails highlighting some of our projects. So stay tuned for those. But again, we can't do this work without you, and we hope that you'll help us reach that goal this summer. I see we have a few comments in the chat. Everyone's saying thank you. But if anybody has any questions or comments for Liz and David, we can open it up. But we appreciate you all being on this evening. It's lovely to see some familiar faces.
Gracias.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Liz or David?
Well, thank you for wonderful presentations. I thought the connection between Liz's wonderful summary of camelids and llamas and alpacas and the movement to what we're doing with the bofedales to the actual development of better marketing routine and just extremely well done. It gives us some sense of the great depth and cultural importance of the work underway. And I know that that's true of so many other areas of the projects that are ongoing. And I just want to say again, thank you to the whole Chijnaya board and team for the fantastic work that you are doing in Peru. I think it's just quite remarkable, and the relationship between Chijnaya and ProDia is very, very powerful to have those teams working so well together. And also thank you to all of the donors who have come on tonight to hear this. You really are our partners in this. Nothing happens unless we have your support. So to all of you, thanks so much. It's just wonderful to be able to work with all of you.
Thanks, Susie. Wonderful. Well, like I said, please stay tuned. We'll be doing several mailings. Oh, we have a question about dollar goals for both Fidelis and scholarships this year. So for our Bofidales project, we are kind of in the works of finalizing some things. So I do owe some folks some information, but essentially it is a project that always requires money because it's not traditionally in our budget. So anytime that we are able to apply for a grant or seek funding specifically for the project, we do so. So I think this year, if I'm not mistaken, our actual total amount for the Bofdales project, like I said, we're still working some numbers, but it's around $58,000. That was the amount of support requested specifically for the project. Again, some of that is classified into like sweat equity of community support that they'll be putting towards the project. We try to quantify all of the contributions, whether that's manual labor or actual physical dollars. And we have received a grant for a small portion of that. That just came through the pipeline this month. So we're excited about that, but we do still need support for the Bofidales project. And as for scholarships this year, we do have, I think we've awarded 38 scholarships, if I'm not mistaken. I might be bad on my numbers here. I can't think off the top of my head, but we have a specific, Susie, I see you unmuting yourself. Are you going to chime in?
Yeah, I think we went to 45 this year.
45, sorry, I'm misspeaking there. But yes, we always try to fundraise for around 50. And then we did do a different sort of process with Prodia this year to determine who we're opening up scholarships to. So we're always kind of adjusting there as we see the need come through. But our goal is always to fundraise for 50 and then go from there. And so if there is any kind of, I wouldn't call it excess, but if there is excess in the sense that maybe there aren't students who specifically need it that year, we can roll it into the next year. But there's always a need. So that would be the answers to your questions, Connie. Let me know if you need any clarification there.
Great.
Any other questions or comments?
I would like to say, this is Gloria. I was very impressed with the video of the leaders of the hurting families and their presentation. And I think that although we only got some of it sound towards the end of it, but I was just very impressed with their presentation. They sounded like professional consultants in development, and I think I get the feeling of trust in them that they really get it and understand all the aspects of it and are just needing the money to get going and really want training. Don't know it all and want to be trained in newer methods. So I would love to see that used, not just with this group, but larger groups. It's only a few minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Gloria. I think videos are definitely something we're always aspiring to share because they are so powerful. And kudos to David and his team for going to some of these far away places to get those videos. So that's something we put on our mutual list for campaigns going forward. So hopefully we will have more videos. But yes, I completely agree and thank you for sharing your opinion on that as well. Any other comments?
I have one.
Go ahead, Roland.
Just echoing what Gloria was saying, the uh, the power of local commitment and insight uh, is this principle that guides Prodia and Chijnaya Foundation, and then it's so beautifully illustrated in what we saw today. So, uh, thanks for drawing that out in your presentation, David, and uh, sharing what an effective approach this is. So it inspires confidence in if we donate money for this purpose, it will go far. Thank you.
Thanks, Roland. Thanks, Gloria.
All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions or comments, again, thank you, David and Liz. I always learn something when you both present, so it was wonderful to hear from both of you. And thanks to everyone who took time out of their busy evenings to join us. Please spread the word about our campaign and contact me directly if you have any lingering questions or comments or you'd like any materials to get the word out about the work that we're doing. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Good to see you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.